All right, today we're peeling back the curtain on some of history's biggest secrets. We're talking about the secret societies that, believe it or not, pretty much shaped Western civilization. And it really all boils down to one big question.
I mean, really, why all the secrets? You have to wonder, why would the greatest minds of the ancient world, the big-time philosophers and mystics, go to all the trouble of hiding their most important ideas from everybody else? Well, it really comes down to how they saw the world. They basically believed humanity was split into two groups. You had the public, who got what you could call the exoteric teachings. Think of these as the simple, literal stories, the myths about gods and goddesses that were easy for anyone to understand. But then, for a very select few, there were the esoteric teachings. This was the deep stuff, the symbolic, spiritual truth that was hidden inside all those public myths.
So to protect this inner circle knowledge, the ancients built something totally unique. We're not talking about public libraries or open debates. No, this was something way more exclusive. These were places built for one purpose, to guard that sacred flame of wisdom.
And these places were called the mystery schools. Honestly, the best way to think of them is like the secret Ivy League universities of the ancient world. They were these super exclusive fraternities where only after you really proved you were worthy, you'd get taught the deepest secrets about, well, everything. Nature, the universe, the human soul, the whole shebang. And check this out. This quote from a Masonic historian, Robert McCoy, really gets to the heart of it. This wasn't just about being secretive for the sake of it. The real goal was a kind of profound spiritual education. They were teaching about one God, about eternal life, and this is the cool part, about learning to see the divine in the beauty of the world all around us.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, how do I sign up? Well, as you can imagine, getting into one of these elite clubs wasn't exactly like enrolling in the community college course. No, the path to get initiated was, let's just say it was intense.
The journey to become an initiate was grueling. First off, you had to be a genuinely good person. High moral character was non-negotiable. If you made the first cut, you'd then go through these long probationary periods where they test you and tempt you in all sorts of ways just to see if you'd crack. The initiations themselves, they were serious trials, sometimes pretty scary stuff, all designed to test your courage. And the final, most important piece of the puzzle, a sacred vow of secrecy. The really deep stuff, it was never, ever written down. It was only spoken.
And don't think this is just some dusty old history. This stuff is still with us. The influence of these ancient trials is alive and well today. In fact, many of the rituals you'd find in modern Freemasonry are a direct reflection of those same initiations that the ancient high priests, the Hierophants, used to conduct.
All right, to make this a little less abstract, let's look at a really cool specific example. The Druids. You know, those mysterious figures from ancient Britain and Gaul?
Now, the Druids weren't just a bunch of mystics running around in the woods. This was a highly structured society, split into three clear classes. At the entry level, you had the Ovates, who wore green and studied things like medicine and astronomy. Step up from there, and you have the Bards in sky blue. They were the masters of sacred poetry and the teachers. And then at the very top, robed in pure white, you had the Druids themselves, the ministers, the judges, the interpreters of divine law.
And their rituals were just so tied to nature. Picture this. The stars and planets align just right. The archdruid, the head honcho, climbs a sacred oak tree. He takes out a special golden sickle and cuts a sprig of mistletoe, which they believed was this powerful universal medicine. And here's the kicker. They'd catch it in a white cloth because it was so sacred it could never touch the earth.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that their whole philosophy was incredibly optimistic. They believed in reincarnation, the idea that our souls come back again and again to learn and grow. And they had this unshakable belief that in the end, light and truth would always win out over darkness and falsehood. It's actually a really beautiful idea. Okay, so let's leave the forests of Britain behind and travel now to the very center of the Roman Empire. We're going to look at another school, maybe an even more influential one, that held its meetings in secret caves right under the streets of Rome.
This was the cult of Mithras. It was originally a Persian mystery school, but it became massively popular with Roman soldiers. The whole belief system was built around this epic cosmic fight between good, represented by a being named Ormuzd, and evil, represented by Ahriman. And right in the middle, acting as the great mediator, was Mithras, the sun god.
Okay, but here's where your jaw might hit the floor. The similarities between Mithraism and early Christianity are, well, they're shocking. Just listen to this list. A god born on December 25th.
shepherds showing up with gifts, the use of holy water, a form of communion, a holy day on Sunday, belief in heaven and hell, immortality of the soul, a final judgment, and a resurrection of the flesh. I mean, the parallels are so uncanny that historians, both back then and now, have had to seriously rethink the origins of some of our most familiar religious traditions.
As you can imagine, all this overlap caused some serious tension. There was this famous pagan critic in the 2nd century named Celsus, and he really honed in on one key difference. He basically said, look, our mystery schools, we only invite the pure and the wise. But Christianity, he said, invited whoever is a sinner, whoever is unwise. He got really sarcastic about it, comparing their open-door policy to a town crier trying to assemble a gang of robbers.
And yet, for all that criticism, their histories were literally intertwined. It's a fact that during the big persecutions, the earliest Christians in Rome would often hide out and worship in the exact same secret underground temples that the followers of Mithras were using. They were neighbors, sharing the same sacred spaces.
So, what happened to all these powerful secret schools? Did they just disappear? Well, yes and no. The actual physical schools, they faded away as the pagan world declined. But their ideas, their symbols, oh, they didn't die. They just went deeper underground.
You can trace their influence like a golden thread weaving through history. First, the ideas were picked up by the Gnostics, these early Christian mystics who weren't afraid to mix pagan philosophy with their new faith. Then, through the Dark Ages, the knowledge was kept alive by super-secret groups like the Rosicrucians. And then bam, in the 17th and 18th centuries, these ideas burst back into the open and became the foundation for the rituals and philosophy of Freemasonry as we know it today.
And all of this leaves us with one last big question. If the core ideas from these ancient schools could survive for thousands of years, shaping our world in ways most of us never even realize, what other ancient secrets are still out there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone like you to find them?